Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Doc. I am Carisha Bernaldez, and I'm tasked to present IQ test or intelligence test. For the types of IQ test, there are several types, and we can divide them according to their administration procedure, like how do we administer them, and they can be categorized as individual or group tests. So we can also classify them as verbal or nonverbal or performance tests based on the nature of items used in these tests. You can choose a test depending on the purpose of its use. So let's go to the types of tests. So as we talk about individual tests, no, as the name suggests, no, it is administered to one person at a time. So isa-isa lang, administered one person at a time only. So it required the test administrator to establish a rapport with the subject and be sensitive to his or her feelings, moods, and expressions during the testing sessions. Individual tests allow people to answer orally or in written form or manipulate objects as per the tester's instructions. So, if you do not have a good rapport with the client, it would be very difficult to get his or her honest opinion or thought. Okay, so then we have a group test. So, um, as the name suggests, no, if kanganina is individual test, so it is group test, no, it is administered to several persons simultaneously. Group tests do not allow an opportunity to be familiar with the subject's feelings because no, there are too many people, dili maisa-isa. And group tests generally seek written answers, usually in a multiple choice format. So there are a number of people no, that are giving the test. So it is very difficult to have an answer orally or in written, especially one-to-one basis format siya. So they usually answer it in a multiple choice na format. So individual tests. Two individual tests stand out in the measurement of intelligence. So the first one, we have SB, Stanford Binet Intelligence Test, and Weisler Intelligence Scale. Before that, no, let's dive into the history and the evolution of the SB intelligence test. So this test no has a fascinating backstory. So initially back in 1905, two French psychologists, Alfred Binet and Theodore Simon, introduced the Binet-Simon test, marking the inception of intelligence testing. So this test aimed to assess a person's intellectual abilities and provide a way to measure intelligence. So fast forward to 1916, no, and we witness a significant development. So American psychologist Louis Terman, based at Stanford University, took the Binet-Simon test and modified it to create no what we know now as the Stanford Binet Intelligence Test. So ang modification ni Terman no, were intended to adapt the test for a more widespread and contemporary use in assessing intelligence. So ang collaboration ni Binet and Simon's original work no with Thurman's modifications gave rise to a new and improved version of the intelligence test. So this test now became a widely recognized and utilized tool for intelligence assessment. Now, let's look a little closer no, at the characteristics of the SB intelligence test, no, particularly in terms of the age group. So, it targets and the method it uses to calculate the IQ. So, first, no, the Stanford Binet test is designed to assess individuals within a broad age range, no, spanning from 2 years old to 23 years old. So this inclusivity allows psychologists and educators to gauge intelligence, no, across various developmental stages. So this provides comprehensive understanding of cognitive abilities. So when it comes to the duration of the test, so it is flexible. No, it ranges from 30 to 90 minutes. So this adaptability accommodates the diverse needs and attention spans of individuals within the specified age group. And now let's talk about the calculation of IQ. So in this version, no, Lewis Terman no, introduced a new approach to determine IQ. No, instead of the original formula used by Binet and Simon, so Terman, no, he adapted a different method. So ang formula is IQ no equals the mental age divided by the chronological age times 100. So this formula takes into account a person's mental age in comparison to their chronological age, providing a standardized measure of intelligence. So if a child could pass the test expected of a 6 years old, then the child is expected to have a mental age 6. His chronological age is 6. So in this case, now the child's IQ score would be 100. So this score indicates that the child's intellectual performance, no, it aligns with their chronological age, no, which is considered average. And it's worth noting that an IQ score of 100 is typically considered average, no, as this is the score that aligns with the average performance for a given age group. So the Stanford Binet test with its standardized calculation method became or become a widely accepted and used measure of intelligence globally. So the Stanford Binet measures five factors of cognitive ability. So the first one is fluid reasoning. So unsa maning fluid reasoning? So fluid reasoning, this refers to the ability to think logically and solve problems in novel situations. So this includes no abstract thinking, pattern recognition, and adapting to new information. Also, knowledge. So in this context, it relates to an individual's accumulated information and comprehension of facts. So, nag-involve siya sa recalling learned information, no, and general knowledge and familiarity with a variety of topics. Also, quantitative reasoning. So, quantitative reasoning assesses a person's ability to understand and manipulate numerical information. So, uh, it involves skills no such as math reasoning, no, mga math related na problem solving and numerical analysis. Next, we have visual spatial processing. So, kanya siya, it evaluates a person's ability to perceive and manipulate visual information in the mind's eye. So, this includes no tasks such as recognizing patterns, spatial relations, and mental rotation of images. And last is working memory. So, ang working memory, it involves the temporary storage and manipulation of information needed for cognitive tasks. So, nag-reflect siya sa ability sa tao to hold and process information over short period of time, no, which makes it crucial for tasks no requiring attention and concentration. So, these five factors no collectively provide a comprehensive assessment of an individual's cognitive ability. So, by breaking down the intelligence into these components, the Stanford Binet aims to offer an understanding of a person's strengths no, and weaknesses across various cognitive domains. So, following are examples of items which a 10-year-old is expected to pass. So, these examples no that provided no includes an IQ test for a 10-year-old no, specifically reflecting different aspects of cognitive abilities. So the first one is vocabulary. So correctly defining 11 words from a graded list of 45. So the test begins with orange, straw, puddle, etc. Okay? So in this task, no, the child is expected to define 11 ka words no from a list no 11 ka words from a list of 45 na words. Okay? So this no assesses the child's verbal comprehension, his or her language skills and depth of vocabulary. So next, block counting. So counting the number of blocks in a three-dimensional picture in which some of the blocks are obscured. So kani siya nga task no involves counting the number of blocks in a three-dimensional picture no where some blocks are obscured. So kani siya, it assesses the child's visual spatial processing skills and ability to mentally manipulate and analyze spatial information. And we also have abstract words. So, define two of the following. So, pity, curiosity, grief, and surprise. So, the child no is asked to define two abstract words no from a set no such as pity, curiosity, grief, and surprise. So, this no assesses the child's ability to understand and to articulate concepts. Finding reason. So, give two reason why children should not be noisy in school. So these are example. Give two reasons why most people would rather have a motor car than a bicycle. So giving reasons now with a given situation. So it is about identifying no and understanding the underlying motives no behind certain behaviors or preferences. And also word naming. So naming many words as possible in 1 minute. So kani siya, this assesses our verbal fluency no kung unsa ta ka paspas maka-retrieve og words from our memory and our cognitive processing speed. So we also have repeating digits. So repeating in order at least one of the following sequence. So kani siya nga test no, participants are required to verbally repeat no in order dapat at least one of the provided sequences no as seen in the picture as a screen. So ang goal ani is to assess their ability no if accurate ba nila mga ma-replicate no ang mga numbers with these numerical sequences. Okay? So, what makes this task interesting is the detailed scoring instructions, no? So, these instructions likely outline specific criteria for scoring participants' responses, no, helping to standardize the assessment process. Majority of the items of this test are verbal and they measure crystallized ability more than fluid ability. Now, let's move on to the Whistler scale. So, the Whistler scale no mark a departure no from earlier intelligence tests by introducing a more and multifaceted approach to measurement. So, unlike no its predecessors, which predominantly focus on a single general intelligence quotient or IQ. So, kaning Whistler scale introduced the concept of dividing intelligence into various concept I components. So, one key aspect of the Whistler scale is its emphasis on measuring a person's ability to adapt and constructively solve problems in their environment. So, this reflects a broader understanding of intelligence no, that goes beyond a singular numerical score. So the Whistler scale became popular due to its ability to provide a more comprehensive profile of an individual's cognitive strengths and weaknesses. So it consists of different subtests and each designed to assess specific cognitive functions such as verbal comprehension, no, working memory, perceptual reasoning, and processing speed. So the Whistler is consists of three scales. So the WISE or the Whistler Adult Intelligence Test, the WISC, the Whistler Intelligence Scale for Children, and the WPPSI or the Whistler Preschool and Primary Scale of Intelligence. So the WISE or the first one is intended to measure intelligence and cognitive ability in adults and older adolescents. So this is 16 to 74 years old. Okay, so the purpose is designed to measure no intelligence and cognitive abilities in adults and older adolescents. So it is a tool no that assess various aspects of cognitive functioning no which provides a detailed profile of an individual's strength and their weaknesses. So the next we have the WISC. So this is age range is 6 to 16 years old. So the WISC is specifically geared towards assessing the intelligence of children. So this is 6 to 16 years old. And it helps psychologists no, and educators to understand a child's cognitive development during these years. So it gives insights into the areas of their cognitive strength and potential areas that may need attention or support. And the third one is the WPPSI. So age range is to 4 to 6 years old. So Moving to our youngest age group, so this WPPSI is designed for preschoolers and children in their early primary years. So this scale helps assess the intelligence of children age 4 to 6 years old. No, this provides information about their cognitive development during these kaning foundational years. So, in 1939, Weisler made a modification of Terman's formula for IQ. Balik na niya. So, Weisler intelligence test consists of 11 subsets. So, 6 of them are in verbal intelligence and 5 of them are performance intelligence. So, the verbal scale includes information, comprehension, arithmetic, similarities, digit span, vocabulary, words reasoning. One who is good with words and reads a lot to do well in these parts of the test. So a brief description of the subscales of the WISC used for the range of 5 to 15 is given below. So information, answering questions like what is steam made of, or what is a pepper. And we also have comprehension under verbal scale. What would you do if you see someone forget his book when he leaves his seat in a restaurant? And also arithmetic, solving typical school textbook problems in a given time. So similarities also describe how things are alike. So what are how are these things the same? Digit span, repeating of numbers, vocabulary, defining words. So we also have performance scale. So this includes digit symbol, picture completion, block design, picture arrangement, object assembly, matrix reasoning, and mazes. So then we have verbal and non-verbal and performance tests. So you have to go through with this very carefully because some of the students or some of the people are not very clear about these tests, and do not get confused by the words such as verbal and non-verbal. So when we say verbal, so any written or oral language are being used. No, pag sinabi nating verbal. Or pag sinabi nating non-verbal, so as the name suggests, we do not use any language, whether it is written or oral form. So verbal test requires subject to give verbal responses either orally or in a written form. And therefore, verbal tests can be administered only to literate people. No, because to understand the test, you need to have language and people who are literate, no, who can read and write, no, can do these kinds of tests. Then we have nonverbal tests. So the nonverbal test use pictures or illustrations as test items. So in this test, we do not use any kinds of language. So this can be implied or administered to illiterate people, people who are not educated or do not have reading and writing skill. So next, Raven's progressive matrices is an example of a nonverbal test. Okay, so as you can see in the slide, one example of nonverbal test is Raven. No, so this is a famous test and mostly used test of intelligence. So in short, it is known as RPM. You can see no sa slide no there's a picture. This is an example of a nonverbal test because the client does not need to write or read or use language. So they are shown only pictures or illustrations. So here in the example, the client no examines an incomplete pattern and chooses a figure from the alternatives or the options below that may complete the pattern. No, so they will just choose from the options below which among them best suit or complete the pattern. And then we have performance tests. So in performance tests, subjects to manipulate objects and other materials. So when we say manipulate, they are basically using the objects and other materials to perform a task. So written language is not necessary for answering the item. So the facilitator or the administrator of the test can speak, no, pwede siya magstorya in giving instructions and the client has to manipulate or perform on the objects. It can be easily administered to persons from different cultures. For example, Coast Block Design Test contains a number of wooden blocks, so the subject is asked to arrange the blocks within a time period to produce a given design. So basically, this is a speed test, no, because there is a time period given. So the client is being shown a picture and they need to arrange the blocks, no, as you can see sa pictures akong screen. No, they need to arrange the blocks and make the same design, no, given in the picture. So basically, the subject is manipulating or using the object, no, the blocks in order to come up with the same picture that is being shown to them. So the next test na we have culture fair or culture bias test. So as the name suggests, culture fair, no, it means that this can be used in any culture. And when we say culture bias test, many intelligence tests show a bias to the culture in which they are developed. No, for example, no, when a child is in a village or when a child grows from a small village or have not seen or don't know how to use a puzzle because wala pa sila kakita og any puzzle or any forms of kaning technological test, and also the child is not knowledgeable because in his culture that child is not exposed to that particular thing, so test should not be culture bias. So tests developed in America and Europe represents an urban and middle class cultural ethos. Hence, educated middle class white subjects generally perform well on those tests. So hence no, if you apply this in a remote area, so they may not, no, you may expect that they may not perform well. The items do not respect the cultural perspectives of Asia and Africa. So the norms for these tests are also drawn from Western cultural groups. So if the norms or the standard criteria to measure is from a different culture, so you cannot use that particular test to other culture. So this is known as a culture bias test. So in culture fair tests, tests are designed to reduce cultural bias, minimize skills and values that vary from one culture to another, and nonverbal and performance tests help reduce the cultural bias usually associated with verbal tests. Because in verbal tests, again, when we say verbal test, now there is language, it involves language. So it can only be applicable to some culture. Suppose for example, you have an English test and you will administer this test no to Chinese or Korean students. So it won't be fair because there would be many words that they don't understand. So if they don't understand the meaning, so obviously no ang ilang answer or their results will be affected with that. So there is culture bias. So in order to reduce that culture bias, we could use tests that shows pictures, illustrations, or the use of objects in order to be fair with them. But before we use any kinds of intelligence tests, it is very important to understand what are the misuses of these tests. Now, because me, especially me as a student in psychology, now there is a tendency that you feel like doing it on everyone who comes across to you. No, kung kinsa may ano ko pa test ko intelligence. So, let's see what are the misuses of these tests. So, intelligence tests serve many useful purposes such as selection, counseling, guidance, self-analysis, and diagnosis. Unless used by a trained investigator, they may be misused either intentionally or unintentionally. So, before conducting a test, you need to have proper training in using intelligence tests before administering the test. Poor performance on a test may attach a stigma to children and thereby adversely affect their performance and self respect. So, the test may invite discriminating practices from parents, teachers, and elders in the society. So, if a person gets low on the IQ test, people may start thinking that this person, no, kung gamay siya score sa IQ test, nun ang mga tao may think that this person does not perform well because he or she have low IQ. No, without understanding na dili lang IQ ang important for performing, but they should also consider other factors. So, it attaches a stigma and brings some self-disrespect to the person and loses her self-esteem, no, as well. So, administering a test bias in favor of the middle class and higher class populations may underestimate the IQ of children coming from disadvantaged sections of the society. So, when we say disadvantaged sections, so these are people who are illiterate, no, people coming from a poor background that does not have exposure to the test or does not have any idea. So, um, intelligence tests do not capture creative potentialities and practical side of intelligence, and they do not relate much to success in life. Intelligence can be a potential factor for achievement in various spheres of life. So, meaning high IQ no does not mean that you have higher success in life. No? Pero importante ang naa kay good IQ, but we also need to have other factors such as EQ. So I think that would be all for my presentation. Thank you for listening and God bless everyone.